Hey, everybody, how you doing? Well, that's good. Welcome to the PHLY Flyers Pregame Show presented by Coors Light. Visit CoorsLight.com/PHLY Hockey to get Coors Light delivered or to find a store near you. My name is Bill Matz. I'm your director of fun and games for the evening. Joining me is the star of the Anthony Gargano Show. It is JP Zapata. What's going on today, JP?
Bill, what's happening, man? It's Flyers game day. Listen, I know you have some bad memories last year with the Sharks, but I don't know. I feel good about this one, man.
I'll tell you, last night, and I think I tweeted it out on the PHLY Flyers account. I went in to start my prep on the Sharks. I was like, let me go back and watch some of that show.
Oh, no.
And I watched the show from the next day with me and Charlie. And honestly, it's one of the most entertaining shows we've ever done together. It was so freaking funny. Just Charlie, they're not good. I don't know why you're this mad. I mean, because they're not this bad. No one is this bad. But here we are again with an early season matchup between the Flyers and Sharks. The Sharks have won already, and they're actually kind of hot. We'll get to them a little bit later. But the story today for our Philadelphia Flyers as they come back from their 1-1-1 Southeastern road trip.
What could that be?
Matvei Michkov is back in the lineup. Very excited to see Michkov back. It was one of the first reports of the morning as Charlie gave us lineup reports all day. So Matvei Michkov is coming in, Eric Johnson is coming in, and Ryan Poehling has been reactivated. Out go Jamie Drysdale, and he's injured. He's a little banged up, John Tortorella told us, and he's actually on IR now. Nick Deslauriers comes out of the lineup. And Morgan Frost, the break glass in case of emergency button has been pulled. Morgan Frost is coming out of the lineup, and that's where I want to start. Honestly, hard to argue the decision. Morgan Frost has barely shown up in the last few games in any regard of the box score. He's only got 6 points on the season, only the one goal, which he tried like hell not to score. But it's just, John Tortorella has been telling us for over a year, Morgan Frost just has to score. And he hasn't. I think he only has the one goal in the last 5 games. He just hasn't really been very good. And now he comes out of the lineup as Michkov returns. What did you think when you saw this?
I mean, dude, this is like the ongoing battle that we have here, Morgan Frost. The thing is, Bill, listen, I'm sure Morgan Frost is the nicest guy you'll ever meet, right? You probably want to grab a beer with the guy. But I think that's part of the problem. I feel like he does lack a little bit of that killer mentality, a little bit of that aggression, which leads to some of those goal-scoring opportunities. But again, how much more are we going to keep going with this battle of the healthy scratch? We all know the reason why Tortorella puts these guys in these healthy scratch. He wants for them to look at it from a different angle, and that's a teaching moment for them. But, Bill, how much more teaching are we going to do here?
And, John Tortorella kind of said as much today. We have a quote from Torts that's I'm not coaching him the way I was last year. I'm not riding the guy. Yeah, it's not about from Jordan Hall. I'm not coaching him like I did the past 2 years. I don't think he deserves that. He just hasn't played well enough. This isn't yeah, man, you got to go up in the press box and learn something. You got to see what you're doing wrong. You're not one of my 12 best players. That's what this is about right now is Morgan Frost. Yeah, in the last 5 games, he has the 1 goal against Carolina. And that's it. That's the only points production. We need him to score, and he just simply doesn't. And you look at the way it did go last year. This is his first scratch this season. Yeah. He had 10 scratches in the first 20 games. I think he played the first 2. I think he played the first 2 games and then was out the next 6. I think he missed 6 of the first 8. And, yeah, half of the first 20 games. He had that other early January scratch, and that's kind of where we heard Frost went into Torts' office and confronted him about it. And Torts was overjoyed. Like, this is what I've been trying to get out of you. I have been trying to get you to this point where you demand the ice time and you tell me I'm wrong. And he kind of got a lot of leeway for the second half of the season from January on. And Frost was pretty good in that time in terms of his scoring. But in the final game of the season, we all remember, he sat for over the final 30 minutes against Washington in a game where you had to win and had to win in regulation, which means you needed to score, and you didn't put your second leading scorer on the ice, at least by points a game. He just doesn't like Morgan Frost's game. And now it's to a point where, listen, he ain't playing well. I am taking him out of the lineup, and that's what's happening.
How do you feel about Morgan Frost? Because like the thing is that like last year he did show us some sparks right after the whole debacle with some scratch. You saw some solid play from him, but do you think like at his highest ceiling there's a future for him when we're trying to contend for cups?
No, because he's just way too inconsistent.
That's how I feel, man.
We talk all the time. Scorers are streaky; they're going to do it in bunches. But now he has shown to be a perpetually slow starter, every year starting slow. There's just little things that, yeah, man, it's cool that from, December 11th through March, you're like the fourth best, points per game player, whatever. I don't care about these sample sizes when we're trying to be good, it's going to be more than about, all right, well, we need to see some consistency. No, when you play in October, when you play in November, yeah, those games might not be do or die games like they were at the end of last season.
Right.
But they do matter for seeding. They do matter all along the way. Playing well against teams, top 3 teams in the division, you want that. You don't want to be one of, oh, well, guess what? I got to go play a division winner because I'm in the wild card. Guess what happens in those series? The 1 and 2 seed, the 1 seeds win.
Yep.
Like, yeah, every now and then there's the upset like Columbus over Tampa a couple years ago, but you're not really in it. We saw it with the Metro Division last year. Those were not series. Mm-hmm. It's just like, yeah, okay. Washington's in the playoffs. The Islanders are in the playoffs. Not really. Not really. It's just that 16 teams make it.
Right.
They had zero chance, and that's what happened on the ice. Being one of those teams, that's how you do it. Your lackluster periods through the season where you're just mediocre at best.
Yeah.
And having a guy like Morgan Frost who has to score, that means he has to play in your top 6. Like, he's not going to be a third-line center. 30, 40 points ain't enough.
No, you're right, man.
I don't see a future here for Morgan Frost. Morgan Frost is here because they have no centers. And as soon as Jet Luchenko makes this team, maybe they get a pretty good center in the draft. Maybe they pick at the top of the draft like they're looking like they might right now. As soon as they have viable replacements, Morgan Frost is gone, and he's due a contract this offseason.
Yeah,
why
man.
extend a guy that the coach doesn't believe in? The coach is here to decide who has it and who doesn't. It's very obvious he doesn't think Morgan Frost has it.
Yeah, man. Listen, at the end of the day, I agree with you. And the Flyers are going to have to make some tough decisions with prospects. This is part of the rebuild process that we're going through. But at the end of the day, honestly, I think at Morgan Frost's ceiling, we can get something better than that. And I think that's why I lend more towards your line of thinking, because I think that down the line, there is a better player that can replace Morgan Frost. Sucks, but it's the truth.
And so we are left with the lines for tonight. Couturier, Tippett, and Konechny stay together. Lawton is going to center Brink and Farabee, as has been the case recently. And I tweeted this earlier because we joked about it all off season. Like, oh, there's going to be a point where Ryan Poehling is centering Matvei Michkov. Like, that's going to happen. And here we are. And it's absolutely funny when you see it right away. Yeah, 100%. I will say, though, Michkov with 2 guys who are fast and have a little more offensive skill. Like Anthony Richard, he's fast and he can put the puck in the net. Struggles in some other areas of the games. That's why he's never been able to really make it as an NHL forward. But I think he has a little bit of offensive upside, especially if you get him in the offensive zone. And we saw it. He scored a goal in the last game. Right. Ryan Poehling, also very, very fast. Helps in the transition game. Block shots, helps take them the other way. Decent in the face-off circle. I think he's right around 50% this year. I don't hate the idea of this line. And it's for one particular reason. There are no right answers. Like, who do we want Matvei Michkov playing with? Other high-end, talented forwards. Well, there aren't any. Like, they're just simply, like, nobody who matches what he can do. Like, they had him with Tippett for a little bit of time, and Owen Tippett is a good forward.
Yeah.
He can score.
Yeah.
Owen Tippett needs to take, like, 10 shots a game. Matvei Michkov needs a ton of touches. It's the, like, there's only one puck. I just don't see those two as a real good fit with each other. With Travis Konechny, yeah, they showed a little bit of chemistry. Also, that forces one to play their offside, and neither really like doing that. There's no ideal answer. I don't think Michkov with Poehling and Tony Dick is the answer. I'm just saying I kind of am intrigued. Like, two guys that might be able to help create transition opportunities. Michkov has done the majority of his damage on the power play. He's looked good there. 5-on-5, it just hasn't really been there. And when last year John Tortorella was asked about transitioning from a pretty safe, defensively oriented team to a team that took some risks and tried to create a lot of rush opportunities, a lot of odd man rushes, he said, and it's why we came up with the nickname the Mad Russian, because he didn't remember his name, which was very funny. He's like, well, we got the Mad Russian coming over, and he didn't say next year, but it's when I started to think they knew something.
Right.
And we want to be ready to take advantage of what he does.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't really been all that effective on the rush this year, especially considering this team was excellent at on-man rushes last season. Maybe putting him with a couple of guys who can create those opportunities and are fast enough to go to the net, and will play a simple game for him so he can kind of be that point guard. Maybe it's a combination that'll work.
It's worth a shot.
I don't hate it. Yeah, again, long-term, being with a guy who's basically a 4C, and Anthony Richard, who is, like, he's played, 25 NHL games, and he's 27 years old. Like, no, this isn't the way things should be. But there's a reason they're one of the worst teams in the league, and it's because they don't have guys that actually make sense playing with Matvei Michkov, so why not give this a shot? You have a little bit of chemistry going with that top line. I like Farabee and Brink together. If you're, okay, well, our center options are Lawton, Poehling, and Cates for Mish. Like, what the hell's the difference? They're all the same guy. Poehling's the fastest. All right, I like it. I don't hate it. So that's the forwards for tonight. Forster, actually, on the fourth line with Cates and Hathaway. He's just got to get his game together. I like Tyson Forster a lot. He hasn't exactly been impressive this year. I think this is just one of those bump in the road.
Yeah.
Like, we know development isn't linear, and maybe that's just what we're seeing with Tyson Forster right now.
Yeah. Real quick with that third line, I'm curious because one of the reasons we heard sitting Michkov was some of the defensive stuff, right? So I wonder, putting him with a guy like Poehling and Richard on the same line can kind of keep him accountable to that, because obviously those guys they're gonna grind it out on those shifts.
Definitely.
And I feel like maybe Torch is just trying to match him up with some of that. But I am very excited to see him match up with some of the speed guys out there. I'm not gonna lie to you. Obviously, we talked about it. We don't have a lot of centers. Don't really care for Cates at the center, if I'm being honest with you. But it is what it is at this point.
Yeah, that's the, like, Lawton, Poehling. Like, Poehling is the only one of these three who's a true center.
Right.
Like, we have enough data now that, like, oh yeah, Cates and Lawton are proficient enough centers, but, like, no, we know they're better on the wing. It's just there's nobody else.
Yeah.
And that's just where we are at this point. If Morgan Frost isn't going to play, both of these guys are going to be centers, and that's where we are. We do see, with Jamie Drysdale ending up on IR now, Emil Andre stays. They needed to make a roster move in order to bring Ryan Poehling back and to keep up all of Anthony Richard, Emil Andre, all three goalies. They needed to make a roster move, so that's what they do. Drysdale goes on IR, goes from banged up to out at least a week, and because of that, we see Emil Andre on the top pair with Travis Sanheim. I kind of like it. Emil Andre has been maybe their best defenseman since his call-up. Had the one real rough game in Carolina, but seems to have bounced back from that. Sealer and Ristolainen stay together, and then we have Zamula and Eric Johnson in a pair I expect to see get
Yeah.
10, 12 minutes tonight.
Yeah, I mean, Charlie had a great article. I think it was like last week or 2 weeks ago about the 5-on-5 play. Like, it has improved, and a big reason why is listen, your defensive pairings has to be a part of that too. Emil Andre's done a really good job, especially on the offensive zone. Especially when we're talking about like the quick transition stuff, something that worked last year. Emil Andre's really big at that. I'd love to see him up there with Sanheim, man.
I'm very excited to see how this all shakes out when Cam York does come back. He's been skating. He's not in the lineup tonight, but I don't see a world where you can send Emil Andre back down unless he has a huge drop-off over the next few games, because he's been one of their most effective, if not their most effective defenseman, and he does the thing that this team badly needs, what they've missed so much since trading Sean Walker. He gets the puck moving in the other direction. Yeah. And tonight we're going to get to see him on power play 1 with Matvei Michkov. That's the other thing, is Michkov gets to play still. Like, on the power play, he'll be with Coots, he'll be with Tippett, he'll be with Konechny, and now Emil Andre. I'm excited to see how Michkov and Andre do together. Two guys who seem pretty good at what they're doing here on the power play. Might be a boost for a group that started the season well but has struggled since.
Torts also kept Richard on the power play units too.
He's here to score. Like, that's his thing, is he can play on offense. Maybe the other ends of his game he needs some work on, and that's why he's never stuck in the NHL. And, you know, it doesn't score at quite enough of a rate like a Morgan Frost.
Yeah.
Like, you're a scorer. That's your role. But you don't score enough to just do that. And that's maybe why he's just been kind of a quad A guy. He's definitely a weapon in the AHL. But up against the NHL competition, perhaps not so much. But if he's going to be here, this is what he's best at, so why not use him? And I like keeping Richard on the power play as well. Michkov returns, and I want to get to our bets in a minute.
Okay.
I'm excited to see him now if he comes back with that attitude of, screw you, you sat me, I would just watch this team not score. Like, the Flyers absolutely played better. Especially in the first period against Carolina, and then they really tailed off. And then in those final 2 games against Tampa and Florida, they certainly played better as a team. But what were they missing? Somebody to provide some offense. I'm hoping that can be Michkov tonight. He can just play a little bit more connected with everybody. Hopefully he understands what was asked of him.
Yeah.
As much as I hate him coming out of the lineup, he had 9 points in his first 8 games. He's only had 1 assist in the last 5.
Yeah.
It's not as if he was playing all that well, where it was like, well, he can't possibly come out. I don't want to see him out anymore. Like, at a certain point, if you can't get this guy to do what you need him to do, that's on you, coach.
Yeah,
like, the tool, buy more tools for your toolbox if you can't figure this out with the ones you have. Like, this kid is good. He's definitely not a finished product, but I don't see how sitting him makes anyone any better from here on out.
I agree.
You did the thing. You sat him. They won, so you sit him 2 nights in a row. Hopefully you made it clear what's expected of him, but, like, it doesn't help anyone now.
Yeah, I feel really good about Michkov, and I'm going back to a point that you brought up last week, sir. Michkov seems to step up when there's a big matchup coming up, right? Connor McDavid in Edmonton, Alexander Ovechkin in Washington. I'm sure we're going to talk about it a little bit, but I've been monitoring the injury report for San Jose. We're talking about rookie of the year here, all right? So I think Michkov is going to come out here. You brought up the fact that he was sat out the last 2 games. He's definitely going to be motivated by that. And I'm sure with this matchup as well, he's extremely going to be motivated tonight as well, Bill.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Macklin Celebrini in this, what is basically a Calder Trophy showdown, at least early in the season. Celebrini played on October 10th in his debut, scored a goal and an assist, and then was out for a while.
Yes, sir.
He's come back in recently. He's played 3 games in November. He had 2 goals in the middle one against Minnesota. So he's only played 4 games thus far. But here he is, 3 goals and an assist in those 4 games. I do think this is a big game in which Matvei is going to want to step up. And that brings us to our bets for tonight. This pregame pick segment is brought to you by Bet365. You use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 and physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. When I last checked Bet365, It doesn't look like there's been an update in a minute. Like Morgan Frost and Jamie Drysdale were still in the props field. Matvei Michkov was not. So while I am looking for Michkov, if maybe they're up now, that lineups have been put out and everything, skate is probably going on right now, I would definitely look at his total points, over on points, maybe an anytime goal. They were not listed. So the one bet I will have pregame tonight, Joel Farabee over on 2.5 shots on goal at plus 135. Farabee's looked a lot better recently, and he's registered 9 shots on goal in the last 2 games, 5 and 4 over the last couple of games. Finally kind of broke his cold streak with a goal the other night. The Sharks give up almost 34 shots a game. The only team that gives up more is the Ducks, so there's going to be opportunities. Joel Farabee has been hot in terms of generating shots and chances lately. We had him to score on Saturday. He put one in for us. That was tremendous. Now we're taking his shots over. That is our pregame bet for tonight from Bet365. This is the Coors Light PHLY Flyers pregame show. Visit CoorsLight.com/PHLY. Hockey. We take a look at the Sharks, and yeah, we all remember last season. I highly recommend going and checking out my rant. I was very entertained by myself last night, and I never go back and look at stuff. It was just freaking funny. We all remember the Flyers losing to the then 0-10-1 Sharks last year. Well, the Sharks started this season 0-7-2 and became the first team in league history to lose their first 9 games in consecutive seasons. That's where the Sharks are. That's why the Sharks, have Macklin Celebrini, because they are freaking terrible. But I will tell you, since breaking their 9-game losing streak to start the year, they're 5-2-0 in their 7 games since, and they just beat the Devils in Jersey 1-0 last night. Wow. Now, Mackenzie Blackwood recorded a 44-save shutout last night. What? So he absolutely tore it up. And honestly, that is a great thing for the Flyers that Mackenzie Blackwood played last night, because Blackwood has a career .923 save percentage and a record of 9-2-2 against the Flyers all time. He is not very good, but he kills the Flyers. And that was the case last year in that game. They lost to the Sharks. I think they outshot the Sharks 39-19 and ended up losing 2-1. Really, this guy, games, Mackenzie Blackwood, who came in with horrible numbers, but he kills the Flyers, so he won't be in there tonight. Looks like it's going to be Vitek Vanacek. He hasn't had nearly as much success against the Flyers, and his season save percentage this year is a couple points below 900. So they absolutely have an opportunity to put up some offense tonight against a not very good goaltender, a team that gives up a ton of shots, a team that doesn't really have all that much NHL talent. That's why they're so bad. They don't have very many good players. I am expecting a pretty good performance from Michkov and a pretty good performance from the Flyers overall tonight against the Sharks.
I mean, it's just all about, keeping that momentum from that road trip that they just had down in the southeast part of this country, because, those were some tough matchups, and I thought they played really well, especially, Michkov out in those 2 games. We obviously saw how much better they looked without him. But now Michkov's back, and they should actually be able to boost some offense right there. But Sharks are not good. You're at home. You should be able to play good with the crowd behind you. I feel good about this team tonight. I think they should be able to get the dub, but obviously we got to play the 3 periods, sir.
Oh, 100%. That's playing a bad team never guarantees anything. No. Flyers showed that a lot last season, winning a lot of games, but also when they lined up against these Sharks. And the Sharks, again, playing fairly well, especially for them, 5-2 in their last 7. So it's not as if you can take them lightly. The Flyers cannot take anyone lightly because they themselves are not very good.
No.
So I am just really looking forward to, more than anything, seeing Matvei Michkov back tonight, seeing a few different combinations, and hopefully taking advantage of what is a talent disparity between these teams. How many Super Chats do we have, Bryn? Just the one. All right, let's hit Gary B's Super Chat right now. Gary B, let's go Flyers. I think we see a 3-1 Flyers win.
Ah, okay. Maybe an empty netter at the end?
Yeah, it shouldn't be that close. The Flyers are more rested. The Sharks played the Devils last night. They're on the back end of a back-to-back. Now, it's not not exactly a ton of travel, Newark to Philly, but they did play last night, and then they had to travel. I got to believe the Flyers can win this game at home. I got to believe people are going to be excited to see this matchup between the two guys who might be two of the three finalists for the Calder Trophy at the end of the year. This year's number 1 overall pick, Michkov, number 7 a couple of years ago. I think we're going to have a good crowd tonight. I think we're going to have some fun. Yeah. I think the Flyers, if it's 2-1 and they score an empty netter to make it 3-1, man, this game a lot closer than I'm expecting it to be.
I do expect to win, but Bill, more importantly, I would like the Flyers to continue because we still don't really know who they are this year, right?
Yeah.
So it would be nice to see them continue playing in the way they did in their little road trip. And listen, they should win, but I want to see them continue with that style of play because we need to find out who exactly they are.
And that's something about reintegrating Michkov now.
Exactly.
We started to see this team gain a little bit of an identity over the past few games. And I'm not saying Michkov was the problem, but it was his disconnectedness on offense. Clearly, the coach saw that as one of the contributing factors to how poorly they were playing. Now we have a couple of lines that are going to be staying together. Lawton with Brink and Farabee, Coots with TK and Tippett.
Mm-hmm.
That third line that Michkov is going to be on, it's also it's a bunch of guys who are not playing in their normal place. Tony Dick, Anthony Richard, we don't know how much longer he's even going to be here.
Right.
Playing in the top 9 in the NHL is not a role we really had penciled in for him this year. And Ryan Poehling, it's he gets bumped up because look at the center situation. Morgan Frost not playing, someone has to do it. So it's kind of just a bunch of guys thrown together. You don't disrupt those top 2 lines. And now it's... I am a little intrigued by this line, actually. What can they do? Can Michkov maybe carry the line a bit offensively, be asked to do a little bit more, be more engaged on offense, and who knows, maybe help Anthony Richard stick around a little longer than we thought he was going to stick around. Maybe unlock a little of that offensive potential that hasn't shown consistently at all from Ryan Poehling in the NHL, but we've seen flashes. He is a guy.
Yeah,
His first ever NHL game, he gets the call up for Montreal, scores a hat trick in the last game of the season. He is a guy that was it the Halloween game where he just danced through the entire defense, and we had the joke, he dressed up like Connor McDavid for Halloween. He does have a little bit of something, and it hasn't shown itself consistently at all to the point where you can be oh, that's who he is. No, he's just a 4C probably.
Yeah.
But maybe given the opportunity to play a little bit different of a role with a guy with the offensive creativity of Michkov, maybe we can see a little bit of something out of these guys who have potential, but not fully formed games, especially on the offensive side.
Yeah, man, I'm definitely, listen, it is definitely there, but worst comes to worst, dump and chase, right?
Yeah, and you can actually win those races.
Yeah, man.
You have guys in Richard and Poehling who can win those races and get to those pucks. And maybe that'll be a line that can actually cycle a little bit. We've seen when Ryan Poehling is with Cates and Hathaway, they're actually one of the lines that's best at getting in on the forecheck because they have the speed to get in and win battles in the corners and get pucks moving. Maybe that speed can also help keep Michkov on offense where he is going to be effective in some, he's, again, not a finished product, but he has a lot of offensive skill. We have seen it a ton already. Maybe these guys, and I know it seems counterproductive because it's a fourth liner and an AHLer, but maybe this combination can show us a little bit of something. I'm actually very excited to see, maybe there's a method towards his madness here. He is also just insane. We know that.
We know this.
We know that too. But maybe this combination, I'm not hating the idea, especially if it's, listen, Morgan Frost has stunk. He had a bunch of opportunities already. We're going to try something else. Dude. And we have 2 other lines that we think are pretty good right now. Let's throw this one together and see how it goes.
Tortorella's a mad scientist, right? Because he's got this crazy head, but then he's at home, with all his dogs, he's very nice and cuddly.
No, he's
a mad scientist.
That's absolutely what he is. And now it's just about game time. This has been the PHLY Flyers pregame show presented by Coors Light. Visit CoorsLight.com/PHLY Hockey to get Coors Light delivered or find a store near you. We will be back with a post-game show immediately following tonight's Flyers-Sharks game. Charlie will be joining us from the Wells Fargo Center to help us break down the action. So make sure you tune in right here to our YouTube page. Make sure you hit that reminder bell, hit subscribe so you never miss a live show. Get those notifications. Follow us on Twitter at PHLY_Flyers. That's where I do all my in-game tweeting. Pretty much all my tweeting at this point. I made a blue sky the other day for myself personally, and it's like, so nice and chill over here. I kind of like it. So at PHLY_Flyers on Twitter and the podcast. Yeah, follow the podcast as well. PHLY Flyers, wherever you find those. All right, JP, that's it for us. My name is Bill Matz. That's JP Zapata. Until postgame, let's go Flyers.
Let's go.
We all silly like the mayor.